For the first minute, let's focus on a craft that really defined medieval engineering. The consistent ability to bend wood into perfect arcs without cracking, splitting, or, weakening the grain. This wasn't optional. Medieval carpenters, wheelwrights and boat builders relied on curved wooden parts for strength, not just for aesthetics. A poorly bent plank meant a leaking hull, a collapsing cart, or, honestly, a weakened roof beam. And while people today often assume medieval woodworkers simply force planks into shape, the truth is, far more sophisticated. They use controlled heat, moisture and timing in a way that, frankly, modern craftsmen often struggle to replicate. What made it possible was a tool so deceptively simple that, honestly, many museums skip past it entirely: the wood-bending bath. This wasn't just a random trough of hot water. It was a carefully managed system designed to transform rigid lumber into a pliable, workable material that could hold curved forms for centuries. And once you understand how they did it, you can use the same method today with nothing more than basic tools. The medieval wood-bending bath started as a response to the limitations of green and seasoned wood. You see, working with green wood allowed flexibility, but it shrank as it dried, causing structural distortions. Seasoned wood, however, was strong but stubborn, resisting any attempt to be shaped. Medieval craftsmen needed both qualities at once, and the wood-bending bath became the bridge between them. By immersing wood in controlled heat and moisture, they temporarily softened the lignin, the natural binder inside the grain, without burning or damaging it. This created a window of flexibility that, once taken advantage of, produced durable and precise curved boards. Archaeological records from Europe's shipbuilding centres, including Bergen in Norway and medieval coastal yards in England, show troughs lined with clay or iron, long enough to submerge planks used in hull construction. Written references from monastic carpentry manuals describe, tempered baths where wheel rims and bow staves were softened before shaping. This was not improvisation. It was an engineered method that allowed medieval builders to achieve curves that equaled or even surpassed many modern steam-bending results. The bending bath worked by combining immersion heat with gradual grain relaxation. Unlike modern steam boxes that deliver high-temperature vapour, the medieval bath relied on hot water heated through stones or iron bars left in the fire and dropped into the bath after glowing red. This allowed heat to rise steadily instead of in abrupt bursts. It ensured the plank absorbed warmth evenly, which was essential because, uneven heating causes warping or cracking. Over the course of, an hour or more, depending on the thickness, the cell walls inside the wood loosened. The grain fibres relaxed, but they still retained their integrity. Moisture penetrated deep enough to make the plank flexible, while still allowing it to hold its final shape once cooled. Evidence shows that thicker planks stayed in the bath far longer than thin staves. In fact, some shipbuilding planks soaked for half a day or more. Craftsmen tested readiness not by timing alone, but by lifting the plank and applying just a bit of pressure. When the wood began to yield without resistance, the shaping window had begun. This is the part of the process where, honestly, medieval skill mattered most. The bath provided the conditions. The craftsman provided the timing. Shaping the wood after removal from the bath was a race against cooling. But, well, it followed a predictable sequence. Once removed from the bath, the plank had only minutes before the lignin began to harden again. Medieval builders prepared their bending forms in advance. These were not arbitrary jigs, mind you. A shipwright's bending frames were built to the exact curvature needed for hull ribs. Meanwhile, a wheelwright's bending hoops were designed to match the circumference of the wheel rim precisely. The softened wood was secured to these forms using wedges, ropes, wooden clamps, or iron dogs. The key was really steady, even pressure. Forcing the curve too quickly caused internal shear. On the other hand, moving too slowly meant the plank cooled before the bend reached its full arc. Medieval craftsmen developed a rhythm: bend, secure, adjust, tighten, hold. As the wood cooled over hours or even overnight, the new shape locked in permanently. The bath had, if only for a moment, allowed the wood to forget its rigidity. The form reminded it of its new purpose. This technique made possible the famous sweeping frames of Norse long ships, the perfect curvature of wagon felloes, and the controlled arcs of medieval bows. Without it, medieval engineering would have been flat, literally and figuratively. The medieval method, you know, remains fully usable today with simple, replicable steps. To apply this technique in, say, a workshop or even a survival context, the first step is building a bath large enough for your plank. A wooden trough lined with clay works. A long steel pan works as well. Even a shallow trench layered with stones can function, provided water retention is controlled. The heat source can be fire-warm stones, dropped into the bath repeatedly to maintain a consistent temperature. You do not want boiling water. Instead, you want heat strong enough to penetrate, but gentle enough to avoid cooking or weakening the fibres. Once the bath reaches the right temperature, submerge your plank. Check flexibility every 15 to 30 minutes. When it starts to bend slightly with hand pressure, remove it and immediately place it on your bending form. Secure it from both ends first, then work toward the center. Let it cool fully before release. This method is especially useful for creating sled runners, curved roof beams, tool handles, bow staves, pack frames, or even furniture components in off-grid situations. The technique requires patience and observation rather than modern machinery. Its reliability is the reason it dominated medieval shops for centuries. The medieval wood-bending bath is a perfect example of old knowledge that still outperforms modern shortcuts. It wasn't crude. It wasn't guesswork. It was engineered understanding passed through generations. Medieval craftsmen read wood the way a navigator reads the sea. They treated it as a responsive material, not as something to be forced into shape. This technique allowed them to build structures and machines capable of lasting lifetimes. If you want more deep dives into historical engineering that still applies to real-world survival and craftsmanship, make sure you subscribe to In the Beginning, share this video with fellow enthusiasts, and help keep this kind of knowledge alive.